In this episode, I'll be using my brand new Iwasaki files to finish shaping up my crest rails. One of our viewers, Clyde Ulmer, suggested that instead of using just the spoke shave, that I try out these Iwasaki files for shaping the finer points of the sculpted parts of the chair. So thank you, Clyde, for the recommendation. And I've got a fine and an extra fine Iwasaki file here that I made handles for, and I'll be using those on the chairs. Problem is, I need to make handles. I started with a 1-inch square piece and chamfered off each of the corners, and now I've got kind of an octagon piece. And speaking of spoke shaves, now I can smooth off this and make it nice and comfortable using a spoke shave. I'm going to use my Veritas concave spoke shave to round off my handle. I'm going to use sandpaper to soften that edge down a bit. It feels pretty good. So I haven't done this before, so this is kind of a learning experience and trial by error. My tang on the file is like 1/8 of an inch thick, so I've got a bit that's just a little bit less than that. And up here it's about 1/4 of an inch, so I'm going to do 2 across the center, 2 holes down in, probably about half the depth of the bit, I guess. Just off center so that the tang will take up the space between those two. I can't put any more of this in because it's too thick. I should probably cut this off before I get and round that over. It's pretty close. Supposed to make your own tools, aren't you? Handles and stuff. It's better than the other one. Should probably go on a little bit more. So here are my 2 handles. I had this one on already and decided I should chamfer that edge down there a little bit. I think it looks a little bit better. And I also made the thumb dip on the second one a little bit deeper. It feels really comfortable. And this one it's just enough to have it there. But yeah, I think they came out okay. Yeah, it's just right for my hand. I'll be using the Iwasaki files to go from this harder shape here, which is just routed out straight, to form the more gradual shape sloping back on the top here with nice gentle curves going in, the roundovers on the front edge, and then also the back edge. This almost forms a continuous shape all the way to the back point here. I'll be starting with the more coarse of the two. This one's the fine, the other one's extra fine. And it does take a very light touch on this, not much of a pressure at all when you do this. Again, it has to go with the grain. If I go too hard, you can see it grabs because these are really file teeth. It's almost like just lightly with this is enough to take it off. And you can see how it's coming off in little curls instead of like you would with a plane, as opposed to dust shavings. If I push even a little bit, it tends to dig in. So it's taking me some getting used to. Thanks for, it's taking a little like getting used to this, but see, on this direction, actually, the grain of the wood is a little bit more giving to come this direction. And the files that I've gotten are slightly convex here, and that's so that I can get into these little cloud lift areas and clean those up. The other thing that I'll be doing is, instead of the routing pattern that's like this, I'll be angling it slightly from front to back. And that's where this curved shape is almost perfect for getting into this corner. The tool is almost determining the shape of my cloud lift here. It's almost left-handed. Just so you can see what I'm doing, but I'm not left-handed. So what I'm after here is carving away the dip here a little bit more refined. It really goes from the first cloud lift over to the other to an arc down like this. And although I had most of that done away with a spoke shave and with sandpaper, I think I want a little bit more of a define, and I can see what the lighting is doing from the top end when it's between the legs, which is what I want to be able to see, that same lighting on all the chairs. So you can see pretty much the whole arc that I'm after here coming into the light. And the fine, extra fine, sorry, this is the extra fine file. I'm not really pushing down at all on this. I'm just letting the weight of the file do the work here. That's pretty much the shape I'm after, so then I'll sand this down. I also have to do this bottom inside edge on both the front and the back of the crest rail. And these are the shavings that I get. It's actually very fine bits, it's not dust. And here I have the crest rail removed from the sides. I've already done the shaping for the top part. I'll be using my files to shape out the bottom parts here. You can see I tried to do a little bit of a round over here with the spoke shave, but I really can't get into these corners, and this is not quite the way I wanted either. So starting with my fine one. Again, it's just a very light touch, and the grain's going to be going that direction. I'm going to go to the very fine one in first, because I think the other one's a bit coarse and a little bit aggressive. That's pretty much the round over I wanted to achieve. And just a little bit of sanding will take this all to a nice smooth finish.